Nature holds the key to our aesthetic, intellectual, and even spiritual satisfaction. These are the words of E.O. Wilson, internationally acclaimed naturalist, author, and one of the world's leading experts in biology. We can thank Wilson for popularizing a long-pondered hypothesis that there's some innate human propensity to connect with other natural life forms. This is known as the biophilia hypothesis. Well, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Of course, I'm glad you were able to, stay a little bit longer. I really appreciate it, your time.
I'm really happy to do that. Anything to further your education,
Thank
that's
you.
what we're here for.
Awesome. Why don't we just jump right into it? Can you just tell me a little bit about what biophilia is?
Biophilia is the need of human beings to truly be in and experience nature.
But does that hypothesis remain valid in today's fast-paced, multitasking, or even screen-dominated world?
So without it, our human spirit, our human soul suffers.
Or has this innate urge to connect with nature been replaced with some unyielding bond with technology that we just can't escape?
Okay, so if you had 20 minutes right now to yourself and you could either choose to spend 20 minutes with your phone and computer doing whatever you wanted, or 20 minutes just alone in nature, what would you choose?
I would choose alone in nature just because I feel like sometimes I like to just experience my alone time and just really reflect on things in my life, and it just helps me feel more at peace. So, yeah.
According to Psych Central, a study shows that the average college student spends about 8 to 10 hours per day on their cell phone alone. And those numbers don't even include computers among other technology. Statistically speaking, those numbers imply that the urge to connect with technology far outweighs that to connect with actual outside life. But is it possible that the technology has become such a standardized and integral part of daily life that it is so less of a conscious choice? Is it possible that that urge to connect with the natural world is simply ignored, yet still subsides?
Experiments have been done by looking at people in hospitals. So they have had plants put into rooms with people, or had rooms with windows that have a view of trees, and found that people who are exposed to those elements with all the other variables controlled for seem to recover more quickly when there's a view of nature or living things.
Would people choose to spend 20 minutes in nature, or would they choose 20 minutes on their phone?
I'll probably choose nature just because I really love nature, and I've gone camping when I was really young, and I climbed trees, I went fishing, I lived in a little tent and everything, so it's really fun compared to being on the phone and everything like that, just because social media nowadays is like, oh look, I'm doing this and that, but it's only for likes and hearts and all that. So I think going out and actually doing something in nature is more better than just being on a phone being like, oh, look at that person.
What would you choose?
My phone? I would choose nature.
How come?
Cause we use our phones every day. You can't spend one day in the nature. You kind of allow yourself to charge a little bit and get back to your senses and actually have a talk with yourself. Cause usually you're interacting with everybody and you're just seeing people in your face every day. Now you get to get back to yourself.
I get my charge from talking with other people, interacting with them.
And mostly through your phone.
Yeah.
I would choose 20 minutes alone in nature because it's just nice being outside and just viewing what the earth has to offer and just have some peace and quiet.
If I had the choice, I would definitely spend the time in nature, but because of my job and because of school, everything requires me to be on my phone and computer. So if I had the extra 20 minutes, I would use my phone to accomplish things.
Certainly, there's dissenting opinion. However, a lot of the responses were that people wanted to actually be in nature. So why is this? It's clear that we gain no material benefit for the most part, nor can we check off any to-dos from the list while in nature. So in today's society driven by instant gratification, multitasking, and materialism, then Why is this inner desire to connect with other life forms still inside of us?
Turning off their electronics and just being able to be immersed and focused instead of being fragmented into so many different parts. Because as students, you're facing family situations and having family responsibilities. You've got transportation issues and problems. If it's not a car, it's riding the bus or the train, getting from A to Z. You have financial pressures that are ever present with tuition and living expenses. Most of you are working. And how do you balance that? And then on top of that, you have your studies and devotion to studying. And then you've got to have some kind of life, some kind of social interaction, some way of living. And the challenge of finding shelter and living and food is also a challenge for students. So when you're having those multiple complex issues, all invading you constantly, every day, it's a worry, it's a burden.
A common thread is connecting with oneself and taking the time to disconnect from everything else. According to National College Health Assessment, stress and anxiety are the top impediments affecting about over 50% of students. Cases often linked to excess stimulation from technology.
But when you can be out in nature, even for 20 minutes, and just let yourselves be, turn off the cell phones, turn off the computers and the laptops, and just focus on a tree, the greenery, the native plants, the feel of the wind on your face, just the breath of the air against your skin. And it's a calming effect. And then, when you go back to your studying or your work, you tend to be more focused and more productive.
Animals are used therapeutically for veterans, for stress relief, and for lots more. Fresh flowers are exchanged for both healing and celebration. And it seems that this biophilia hypothesis is still sound, and that innate tendency to connect with nature lives within us. What draws you to the outdoors, you personally?
I thrive on it. I find that if I can't get out here, I'm frustrated, I'm unhappy, I don't feel well, that I need to have that sense of being out and amongst nature. But more than that, I like the adventure of discovering new things. So every time I go on a new hike, every turn in the trail is a new part of the adventure, and I have a sense of mystery, a suspenseful element to it. And even if it's a hike I've done over and over again, and I know every part of it, I'll think there's something new I'm going to see, and what's that mystery that's going to be revealed as I continue on the trail.
Social media and technology raise a screen between you and the world. And people are looking for a natural connection which can't always be found through that screen. This goes right back to the biophilia hypothesis, our natural connection.
Rather than picking up the phone and talking to one another, they're going to text. And so you just can't get the same kind of interaction with a person. I've seen students on campus walking next to one another, texting, instead of talking to one another.
Though students are perfectly aware that there's nothing material to be gained from the outside, nor anything can be checked off our to-do lists by spending time in nature, they're immediately drawn and innately drawn to connect with it and with themselves. Nature provides some sense of truth. The figure who most notably validates the biophilia hypothesis is Henry Thoreau, who spent over 2 years of his life living only in the company of nature and himself. It is in his words that perhaps we can understand the importance of biophilia. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived.